हरे कृष्णा। आप सभी दर्शकों का स्वागत है आपके पसंदीदा शो आपके मन की बात हमारे साथ के एक बिल्कुल नए एपिसोड में। जो लोग आज हमारे साथ पहली बार जुड़ रहे हैं, आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत है। और जो हमारे रेगुलर व्यूअर्स हैं, आपका भी हार्दिक हार्दिक स्वागत है। दर्शकों, हरे कृष्ण टीवी पर वैसे तो हम मंडे यानी सोमवार को छोड़ के हफ्ते के बाकी सारे 6 दिन आपकी सेवा में अनेक लाइव शोज लेकर के आते हैं, जिसमें हम देश विदेश से ऐसे भक्तों को आमंत्रित करते हैं जो आपके और मेरे जीवन में अपने अनुभव, अपनी उपस्थिति, अपने ज्ञान और कहीं ना कहीं अपनी करुणा से हमारे जीवन में मार्गदर्शन और हमारे जीवन में प्रकाश लाते हैं। इसी सिलसिले में हम बुधवार यानी वेंसडे को एक्सक्लूसिवली गौ माता के विषय में चर्चा करते हैं और ये सिलसिला कहीं ना कहीं हम सभी के जीवन के बहुत करीब है। हमने इस टॉक शो के सीरीज से गौ माता के विषय में बहुत कुछ जाना है। बहुत सारी ऐसी सच्चाई है जो अब तक हमारे समाज में उजागर नहीं हुई थी या एट लार्ज लोगों को नहीं पता था। हमारा ये सफर देश विदेश से गौ सेवकों के साथ, गौ भक्तों के साथ बहुत ही उन्मत्त रहा है, बहुत ही गहरा रहा है। और इसी कड़ी में आज भी हमारे साथ एक बहुत ही श्रेष्ठ व्यक्ति जुड़ने वाले हैं। आप सभी को बताते हुए मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है कि आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं, वे कहीं ना कहीं हमारे गौ माता पर जो टॉक सीरीज हमने शुरू किया था उसके पहले गेस्ट थे। एंड टुडे इट फील्स लाइक अ कंप्लीट सर्कल। तो मैं आप सभी से पहले ही ये क्लियर करना चाहती हूँ कि जो आज के हमारे गेस्ट हैं वे मुख्य रूप से इंग्लिश में ज्यादा कंफर्टेबल हैं। तो आज का हमारा जो टॉक शो है वो मुख्य रूप से अंग्रेजी में होगा। मैं अंग्रेजी में सवाल पूछूंगी, अंग्रेजी में जवाब आएगा, लेकिन मैं बीच बीच में हमारे सेशन को आपके लिए सिंप्लीफाई करने का पूरा प्रयास करूंगी। तो अगर आपको मुख्य रूप से अंग्रेजी नहीं समझ आती है तो प्लीज आप ऐसे किसी व्यक्ति को इस सेशन को सेंड कीजिए जो अंग्रेजी जानता है और आपका संबंधी, आपका मित्र या आपका दोस्त है जो आपको आज के सेशन के विषय में विस्तार से बता सकता है। क्योंकि दर्शकों, आज का सेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और ये क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है? वो इसलिए क्योंकि हमारा विषय और हमारे गेस्ट दोनों ही अपने आप में बहुत दमदार हैं और एक बहुत ही रिस्पॉन्सिबल व्यक्ति आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं और वे कहीं ना कहीं हमारे सारे क्वेश्चंस के लिए आंसरेबल हैं, एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशन होल्ड करते हैं और उन्होंने अपने जीवन से, अपने समय से पूर्ण रूप से गौमाता की, भगवान की और भगवान के भक्तों की सेवा की है। तो आज का अगर आप टॉपिक देखेंगे तो आज हम एक गौशाला के विषय में चर्चा करने वाले हैं कि गौ माता जहां निवास करे, जहां वो अपना जीवन बिताए, वो स्थान आइडियली कैसा होना चाहिए और आज की तारीख में कैसा है। और कहीं ना कहीं इस दोनों ही रियलिटीज के बीच की जो गैप है, इसे भरने के लिए इस्कॉन एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन क्या करने का प्रयास कर रहा है और फ्यूचर के लिए उसके क्या गोल्स हैं। साथ ही हम गौ माता के साथ होने वाली क्रूरता, क्रुएल्टीज पर थोड़ा बहुत प्रकाश डालेंगे ताकि हम थोड़ा सा कॉन्टेक्स्ट एस्टैब्लिश कर सके। आप सभी को आज के गेस्ट के बारे में बताना चाहूंगी। आज हमारे साथ जुड़ने वाले हैं हिज ग्रेस सनक सनातन प्रभु जी। और प्रभु जी का जन्म और लालन पालन जर्मनी में हुआ। प्रभु जी हिज होलीनेस लोकनाथ स्वामी महाराज के दीक्षित शिष्य है और प्रभु जी का कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस में जो सफर रहा है वो अपने आप में बहुत प्रेरणादायक, बहुत ही ज्यादा एंकरेजिंग रहा है। मैं आप सभी को बताती हूँ कि आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं वे इस्कॉन के काउ मिनिस्ट्री के हेड हैं। वे ओवरऑल इंडिया में जो इस्कॉन का काउ मिनिस्ट्री और एग्रीकल्चर का एक डिपार्टमेंट है उसके प्रभु जी को मिनिस्टर हैं और मुख्य रूप से वे नॉर्दर्न रीजन को सुपरवाइज करते हैं और एक एक चीज को अपने आंखों के सामने से होता हुआ देखते हैं। करंटली वे वृंदावन में निवास कर रहे हैं। साथ ही जो कुंभ मेला हुआ था उसके भी प्रभु जी इंचार्ज रहे थे। वो ऑल इंडिया पदयात्रा के हेड रह चुके हैं और इस्कॉन वृंदावन के वे वाइस प्रेसिडेंट और टेंपल कमांडर के रूप में भी अपनी सेवाएं दे चुके हैं। आप समझ सकते हैं कि आज के हमारे गेस्ट भगवान से, उनके धाम से और उनकी प्रिय गौमाता से बहुत इंटीमेटली कनेक्टेड हैं। मैं आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी हमारे साथ अंत तक जुड़े रहें। एंड एज आई सेड, अगर आप अंग्रेजी नहीं समझते हैं तो इस सेशन को किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति के साथ देखिए जो अंग्रेजी समझता है ताकि वो आराम से आपको आज की बातें कन्वे कर सके। और एक पॉइंट के बाद, मेरे क्वेश्चंस के बाद आपके क्वेश्चंस लिए जाएंगे, तो उत्साह के साथ आप हमारे गेस्ट से सवाल पूछिएगा। आइए हाथ जोड़कर आमंत्रित करते हैं सनक सनातन प्रभु जी को।
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm not speaking Hindi very well, so please we can start.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining. Despite having so many other services and engagements, you chose to appear as a guest on our show and enlighten us with the information, with the divine information that has the potential to strengthen the society, to improve the society, and overall remind us all that Mother Cow is an integral part of our human society. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, right now we have around 1.5 hour in hand, and I have altogether 20 questions to ask you. I request you to be honest with us and to encourage us, guide us into this very divine path of cow protection and cow service. And with your blessings, I would like to take the first question.
Yes, yes, let's go ahead.
So the first question is, in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Vedic tradition, the cow and the bull are viewed as the mother and father of human society. Could you break down the deeper spiritual and psychological impact this worldview has on a society compared to a purely utilitarian view of animals?
Yeah, it is, as I said, it is mother and father. We have developed into a lifestyle which is not, I would say, very real anymore. I guess you're in Mumbai right now. So
Yeah,
just imagine the current gets switched off. Within 24 hours or 48 hours, you would not be able to live anymore because you must be staying on the third, fourth, fifth, 10th floors. The pump will not pump your water anymore. The sewage will not drain anymore. And you will run out of, first out of bathing water, out of drinking water. So in a normal society, and even in the city society, first of all, we need to eat. And if you want to eat, that means you have to grow. And for growing, you need fertilizer. So without fertilizer, you can't grow things properly. If you can't grow, you can't eat, you can't live. So we have moved so far away from that scenario, and all over the world, it is the most crazy thing that the farmers are getting hardly anything for their work. And food are subsidized in India, in Germany, in America, wherever I know. The farmers are always subsidized. The most essential thing for every living being. So, in a normal scenario, like people having a pet dog or pet bird, people have pets in the cities, and they're very close with those pets. They're serving those pets. So, in a normal world, you have a house, and next to your house there is a stable, and in your stable there is a cow and there is a bull. And people always thinking cows, people keep animals forgetting the milk, absolutely nothing. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, you mentioned, it is always mentioned in many ways. The kings have Goshalas, or Bhishma had to go and they stole some cows, he had to bring them back, and it's a whole pastime with Ganga Mataji. So we would think, oh, the king must have had a big Goshala so he can drink milk and have paneer sabji. No, absolutely nothing. If you interview people who are pretty old, their milk was never a commodity to be sold. Everyone somehow or another, neighbor or the neighbor after would have a cow and they would get milk and that would be distributed. The cows and bulls were kept because they needed the bulls for transport and for agriculture, something very essential. And when you have those animals next to your house, they're becoming like your family members. Huh? So, and since you're depending on them, like you're depending on your father and your mother, you are depending on them. Plus, when we speaking, the cow is a mother. There's seven mothers, so the cow is one of those seven mothers because as babies and even later on, we all drink milk. Milk is an essential part if you want to develop your finer brain tissues. Srila Prabhupada makes that very clear. So you need to drink milk and you need to till your field. So ultimately, you're depending on those animals. I've been 10 years on Padiyatra, and at the end, I was a manager. And you would think the Padiyatra manager has to think about many things. What is the route? How to get the books? There are many things, but your main meditation are your bulls. Because if the bulls don't move, then the Padiyatra doesn't move tomorrow. And you can stay because people give you shelter for 1 or 2 days. You're staying in a school. The kids come at 10 o'clock. You have to vacate the place. So that is when you depend on those animals, and you have to have appreciation for them. We can see the cow, all the demigods are living in the body of the cow. So when we move into the spiritual section, first of all, it is a very pious activity to have a cow and to serve a cow. And then we as devotees, Krishna is taking care of the cows. That is our, technically, if we want to go in that direction, that is our Nitya Seva. Krishna takes care of the cows, the gopis are supporting that, and Nanda Maharaj is having the cows, and Yasoda is, so it is, she's churning butter. It is all integrated in the spiritual point of view. Being we want to go to Goloka Vrindavan, we have to be acquainted with cows. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. This was indeed the very establishment, the very context that we needed. I can try and translate this for the audience. Just give me a minute. दर्शकों,
No problem.
यहाँ पर मैंने प्रभु जी से एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सवाल पूछा है कि हमारे शास्त्रों में तो गाय और बैल को माता पिता कह करके संबोधित किया गया है, तो क्या आप ऐसे दो दुनिया या दो समाज के विषय में बता सकते हैं, एक जहां माता पिता कह करके हमारे गाय बैल को पूजा गया हो, और एक जहां पर गाय और बैल को केवल काम से काम की दृष्टि से देखा जाए और काम ना हो तो उन्हें ऐसे ही साइड लाइन कर दिया जाए। तो प्रभु जी ने बड़ी अच्छी तरह से हमें शहरों में रहते हुए बताया है कि क्योंकि हम यहाँ पर शहरों में रहते हैं, इसलिए हमने इन सारे नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज को बहुत ही ग्रांटेड तरीके से लेके रखा है। लेकिन अगर 24 या 48 घंटे के लिए लाइट चली जाती है, पावर कट हो जाता है, तो हम सभी बेचैन हो जाएंगे, हमारे इलेक्ट्रिक अप्लायंसेस नहीं चलेंगे, हमारा फोन चार्ज नहीं होगा, और कहीं ना कहीं अगर खाने पीने की दिक्कत हो गई तो हम पूरी तरह से बेबस हो जाएंगे, लोगों की मृत्यु हो सकती है, लोग लाचार हो सकते हैं। लेकिन वहीं अगर हम एक ऐसे समाज की ओर देखें जहां गाय बैल को सदस्य, घर के सदस्य की तरह पूजा जाता हो, तो उस घर में धन धान्य की कभी कमी नहीं होती है। और प्रभु जी ने ये समझाते हुए शास्त्रों से बड़े राजा महाराजाओं का एग्जाम्पल दिया है, और ये भी कहा है हम सभी को आईना दिखाते हुए कि पुराने जमाने में हमारे शास्त्रों में अगर किसी राजा के पास गौशाला थी, तो वो इस उद्देश्य से नहीं था कि रोज उस राजा के घर में पनीर की सब्जी बनेगी या वो दूध पिएंगे। सीधे तौर पर गौ माता और बैल से जो गोबर में जो इतनी उपजाऊ होती है हमारी धरती, वो कहीं ना कहीं हमारे भोजन को बहुत पौष्टिक बनाती है, जिससे पूरे समाज, एक स्वस्थ समाज का निर्माण होता है। तो यहीं पर प्रभु जी ने बड़ी अच्छी तरह से बताया है कि अगर समाज में गाय बैल को सम्मान की दृष्टि से देखा जाएगा, उनकी सेवा की जाएगी, तो उनके माध्यम से पूरा समाज जो है वो स्वस्थ और पोषित रहेगा। प्रभु जी, moving on to the next question in our series, Srila
Mhm.
Prabhupada strongly emphasized simple living, high thinking, and self-sufficient farm communities. In 2026, with rapid urbanization, how is the ministry adapting his original blueprint to remain relevant to modern city dwellers?
Yeah, this is a very complicated. See, I think around 55% of the world population are living in cities. So, what Srila Prabhupada always said, simple living, high thinking, every person can have 1 acre of land, can have a little house, and can have a cow and a bull. And with this 1 acre of land, he can maintain himself. So we have drifted, as I said in the previous, we have drifted far away in our city life. We are all living like kings. Huh? You get apples from Germany, and you get oranges from South Africa, and you get who knows what from Brazil, and something else from America, and you just go in the supermarket and whatever Reliance Smart, and you can just buy that and have it on your table. You can have ice cream, you can have cold air. So we have so many things, but it has become natural for us, and we are thinking this is normal. But this lifetime is unfortunately not sustainable. It won't be sustainable. It is built on cheap oil, it is built on cheap energy, it is built on exploitation of Mother Nature, and it won't work out. So we have to come at some point back to a more natural style of life. Now, how we can do that within the city, that is very complicated. Most probably not. We have to make an effort of sometimes coming out of the city. We have to make an effort of helping Goshalas. We have to make an effort of helping or get in alliance with some farmers where we can go on the weekend. So it is not so easy to answer that question, but ultimately, if you want a peaceful life and you want to have free time to read Srimad Bhagavatam and to meditate on Krishna, then that simple life is essential. If you go out, you wake up early in the morning, you quickly eat something, and then you're already in your car in the public transport, you run to your office, you work the whole day, you come back in the evening exhausted, and then you watch a little telly and go to sleep. That is not conducive for anyone. That is very short-term thinking, because when you leave the body, then you have done nothing for your actual self. So simple living is the foundation where you easily can develop high thinking.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for reminding us all of what all we are missing on if we are simply continuing to live in the delusional world and understanding the body as our own self. दर्शकों, यहाँ पर प्रभु जी ने बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज पर हाईलाइट किया है कि अगर हम ऐसे ही जीवन जीते रहे कि खाया, नौकरी पे गए, सोया और यहाँ वहाँ की चीजों में अपना समय बर्बाद किया, तो मृत्यु के बाद हमें साथ ले जाने के लिए हमारे पास कुछ भी नहीं बचेगा और तब हमें बहुत पछतावा होगा कि हमने स्वयं के लिए आत्मा के स्तर पर कोई साधना नहीं की, कोई भक्ति नहीं की और उस पॉइंट पर समझ आएगा कि हमने हमारा पूरा मानव अमूल्य मानव जीवन केवल नश्वर चीजों को जमा करने में वेस्ट कर दिया, व्यर्थ कर दिया। और कहीं ना कहीं अगर सिंपल लिविंग हाई थिंकिंग की बात है तो प्रभु जी ने बताया है कि इस चीज के लिए पूरे समाज को एकजुट होकर के एक दूसरे की सहायता करने की बहुत आवश्यकता है। एज अ सोसाइटी हमें भी कम्युनिटीज बना करके छोटी मोटी गौशालाओं से कनेक्ट करके उन्हें सपोर्ट करना है, एफर्ट लेना है और कलेक्टिवली इस एक कलेक्टिव गोल के टुवर्ड्स हमें काम करना है ताकि हम सिंपल लिविंग हाई थिंकिंग का ये जो एक अल्टीमेट परफेक्ट ह्यूमन लाइफ है इसे अचीव कर सके। प्रभु जी, मूविंग ऑन टू द थर्ड क्वेश्चन। While cow protection gets a lot of mainstream attention, the bull is often overlooked once tractors take over. How does ISKCON ensure the dignity, care, and practical engagement of bulls and oxen on its farms?
That's a good question. That is not so easy, as the question already said. First of all, when we go to a more traditional word, go is a species. That means it means both cows and bulls. But of course, in the moment when you use the cows or the species go as a species from where which you want to get something from, you want to get that milk, then of course your focus will be on the cows, and of course the bulls are not producing milk, so they appear from beginning on a burden. And I even know I'm living in Vrindavan in the Goshala. I was running the Goshala for almost 15 years. So when you see a male calf, even after so many years and being very based in the philosophy, when I see a male calf, you have a little bit feeling of dissatisfaction, because you know that that male calf is not actually being able to live in their natural dharma. Hmm? So you have bulls, and then you have bullocks, and bullocks are supposed to transport goods and plow the fields.
Hmm.
So when you go to the ISKCON point of view, right now we have registered all our Goshalas. We're counting all the cows and bulls. The first step was to make 100% ensure that no bulls are going to give to friendly farmers. That is totally outrooted now. And when we are having brought a Goshala more or less in condition, and they have a little bit of land, then we accredit them also for how many ox hours have been used per year. So we are encouraging that very much. But that is only possible if you have a land and if you have also manpower, because the tractor, as you already mentioned in the question, the tractor, I can hire a tractor driver, and he comes and within 1,000 rupees diesel, and maybe in 10, 12 hours, he can do acres and acres and acres of land. When I want to do the same thing with the bullocks, you thinking that must be cheaper. No, that's so much more costly because I have to hire a worker who will do that. And because hardly anyone does that, that worker overcharges like anything because it's hard work, of course, also. And it will take him many days to do the same amount of acreage. So it is not just an easy task. So we are accrediting bull hours for each and every Goshala. So once the basics are settled and there is land, then we're encouraging that too.
Yeah. Prabhuji, you rightly mentioned the mathematical calculation here. And this is something that has come into the picture very rapidly and very majorly, which is why farmers all over the country, maybe all over the world, are opting for tractors because A, it's cheap, B, it's faster, and C, it's because the tractor does not need you to supervise it all the time. Meanwhile, the bullock, if we use the bulls and all the other sorts of animals, then they need extra attention. They will work slower. Of course, they are living beings, so in no universe can we compare them to the machineries. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for establishing it very well here.
If you go in that direction, there's another very important point. If you're sitting on your bullock cart, you just feel like a normal farmer. But hey, once you see them sitting on that machine, they feel like a king.
Right. You're right, Prabhuji. Again, there's this psychological aspect that comes into the picture, that it starts playing with your mind. You feel a different status, you feel a different stature when you're at the tractor. You feel like you've elevated, you've upgraded your lifestyle.
Yes.
That's a very, very valid point. Prabhuji, the next question is, many people think Gau Seva simply means feeding a cow grass at a temple. What does a comprehensive, lifelong model of Gau Seva actually look like from birth to natural death?
That means that you have a house or you have a farm, and the Goshala is attached to your house, and you take care of them as your family members. That would be the natural and original model. In the moment you start growing bigger Goshalas, it's maybe okay until you reach 20 animals. And then from there onwards, it becomes more and more difficult, of course, because it becomes a bit like a factory. You have workers, and this has to be cleaned. The cow have to shift from A to B, and that has to be cleaned. The food has to be made ready. So it's becoming complicated. But at least if they get sufficient food, if they get grazing first class, if not, if they get a sufficient running area, then that is okay. But actual cow care starts when you actually interact with the animals. You know them by name, and they know you as a contact person. When you say, "Hey, Surabi, come here," and the cow immediately puts up the ears and comes, that would be the perfect scenario. So, and it is, of course, first of all, to give respect. And to really appreciate, to not just see them as machines for satisfying your desire for milk.
राइट, थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी। दर्शकों, यहाँ पर मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी, पिछले 2 इन क्वेश्चंस में मैंने प्रभु जी से पूछा है कि गायों के विषय में तो बहुत बात होती है, लेकिन उस बैल का क्या, उस बछड़े का क्या, और उस ऑक्सन का क्या, जिसे निश्चित रूप से ऐसे ओवरलुक कर दिया जाता है, ध्यान नहीं दिया जाता, क्योंकि उनके द्वारा जो कार्य हुआ करता था वो ट्रैक्टर्स द्वारा किया जाता है। उस पर भी प्रभु जी ने बड़ा अच्छा उत्तर दिया है कि निश्चित रूप से ये अपने आप में बहुत चैलेंजिंग है, बहुत इसमें बहुत सारे कॉम्प्लिकेशंस आते हैं, लेकिन एज अ सोसाइटी इस्कॉन एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन अपना पूरा प्रयास कर रहा है। और मेरा अगला प्रश्न प्रभु से ये था कि एक आइडियल, एक सबसे उचित, सबसे प्यारा सा, आप कह सकते हैं, गौ सेवा आप किससे कहेंगे, जो प्रामाणिक हो, जो शास्त्रों की तरफ से अप्रूव्ड हो, और जिसमें कोई छल ना हो, कोई पाप ना हो? जिसका उत्तर प्रभु जी ने दिया है कि जन्म से लेकर प्राकृतिक रूप से जब तक गौ माता अपनी अंतिम सांसें नहीं लेती है, तब तक उनका पूर्ण तरीके से ख्याल रखा जाए, उन्हें अच्छा साफ खाना दिया जाए, साफ पानी दिया जाए, चरने के लिए जगह दी जाए, टहलने के लिए जगह दी जाए। और प्रभु जी ने बताया है कि एक समय पर 20 से अधिक गाय नहीं रखनी चाहिए, क्योंकि फिर वो घर कम और फैक्ट्री जैसा अधिक लगने लगता है, आपको लोगों को हायर करना पड़ता है, और बहुत मेजर लेवल पर चीज़ों को मैनेज करना पड़ता है, जिससे कई बार कॉम्प्लिकेशंस आते हैं, कई बार हेडेक्स आते हैं। इसके लिए ऐसे ही आप सेवा कीजिए जिसे हम सबसे उपयुक्त, सबसे उचित मानेंगे, जहाँ एकदम परिवार वाला, प्यार वाला, प्रेम वाला माहौल हो और बिल्कुल भी मैनेजमेंट जैसा फ़ील ना आए। Prabhuji, moving on to the next question, which is very important. ISKCON India recently expanded from about 60 mapped Goshala projects to nearly 100. What are the greatest operational challenges, logistically and financially, when scaling up cow protection on such a massive national scale?
We're not opened up so many more new Goshalas. We basically started to register all the Goshalas we already had. So some of them are small. They have 5 animals, 10 animals, 20 animals. All the bigger Goshalas have already registered with us. So as I said earlier, I'm basically building up on the same answer I had given earlier. If you have smaller Goshalas, then there is a lot of personal interaction with the animals. Whereas if you have bigger and bigger Goshalas, it is a large scale operation where there's a lot of workers involved, and personal interaction with the animals, of course, is becoming lesser and lesser. But we have registered all the Goshalas. We're taking care regularly. We are visiting the Goshalas. We had a very wonderful conference in February in Ahmedabad at the Goshala. And the enthusiasm is growing and growing. Financially, I have very rarely seen that Goshalas in financial trouble. Even here in Vrindavan, let's say non-ISKCON Goshala, someone starts with one cow and once a sudden he has 50 cows. I know a couple of personal friends who ended up like that. That money ultimately comes. You take care of the cows take care of you or take care of themselves.
Mhm.
Logistically, of course, to really nicely take care of a big amount of animals, you have to be pretty much on the ball, make sure that your workers, that your setup is properly. We have a standard model how to arrange the Goshala so it is easy for the workers, how to easy to keep it clean and pest free. So it is a setup. But
Mm.
yeah, it is improving. First of all, that we have registered all the Goshalas. The last ones have come forward. They realized that they better be part of the family, and now we are supervising it, and we're trying to more or less push everyone to have Goshala and farm combined, because then that package is
Mm.
making much more sense. There's chance for the bulls to work. The cow dung will be used. And then you can grow fodder. You're not totally depending on fodder from the market. So like that.
Mhm. Prabhuji, my next question is in connection to the same thing. With so many diverse Goshalas operating under different conditions, what specific training, hygiene, and medical assessment standards does the ministry enforce to ensure uniform quality of care?
Yeah, the foundation is the same for all the Goshalas. If that is in Kanyakumari or in Kashmir, um, the externals are slightly different. The breed of cow maybe is slightly different. The fodder, the seasonal fodder might be a little bit different, but that doesn't really matter. A cow need a certain amount according to body weight, a certain amount of kilos of fodder, dry or wet, and a certain amount of medicine and a certain amount of space to move. So we have our standard of cow care for ISKCON, and we are trying to enforce in all the Goshalas to establish that as much as possible. That is
Mhm.
including, we are trying to also have sufficient milk for the temples. Normally, a Goshala should be always part of a temple, and then the milk should be there to serve the deities and the devotees. It's not like we're heavily pushing on milk, but definitely Srila Prabhupada wanted that the cows produce milk for the deities and for the devotees. And then
Mhm.
afterwards comes care, and there comes a plan how to manage how many cows you want to breed, how much milk you want to have, how much because if you do breeding, how much you want to expand your Goshala, what is the number according to the amount of milk you get, where the population gets stable, so it's not growing and it is not collapsing. It's a lot of framework for that.
Right. थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी, आई जस्ट ट्रांसलेट ऑल ऑफ दिस।
Mm.
दर्शकों, मैंने प्रभु जी से बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट सवाल पूछा कि इस्कॉन एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जो शिक्षाएं थी कि जितने भी हमारी फार्म कम्युनिटीज हैं उन्हें हमें स्केल करना है और कहीं ना कहीं वो एकदम उच्च क्वालिटी की होनी चाहिए, ऐसे चीज़ों को स्थापित करने के लिए एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन क्या कार्य किए जा रहे हैं। तो प्रभु जी ने बताया कि निश्चित रूप से भक्तों में उत्साह बहुत बढ़ रहा है, हर कोई इस चीज़ को लेकर के बहुत ज़्यादा एक्टिव है, बातें चल रही हैं, चर्चाएं हो रही हैं, कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हो रहे हैं और मुख्य रूप से ये जो एक प्रोजेक्ट है इसकी अवेयरनेस बढ़ाई जा रही है और मैसेजेस पास किए जा रहे हैं और निश्चित रूप से हम आने वाले कल में एक बेहतर परिवर्तन देख सकते हैं। प्रभु जी, my next question is altogether about something very important, and this is something that the whole nation, or let's say the whole world, talks about and is trying to bring about a solution in this area specifically. A major crisis in cow protection worldwide is the aging herd. Cows that are past their milking years. What strategies does ISKCON use to sustain the high cost of medical care and feed for senior non-milking cows?
We're not making any difference there. All the cows are getting the same care. Of course, if you have a milking cows, you have to milking cow or milking cows. You have to provide a little bit more food. You have to give some oil cake and some chuni and some mineral mixture and some kali. So different items you have to give extra for working bulls and for milking cows. Besides that, the animals are taken care of from the time of birth. Until the time they're leaving their body.
Hmm. Thank you so much
You're
for
back.
saying that out loud. Yeah. Thank you
So,
so much for
so,
saying that.
so that is it is not a problem itself. We are taking care of course. I think later on we will elaborate in the next question.
Yeah. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर सेइंग दैट आउट लाउड प्रभु जी, द वर्ल्ड नीडेड टू हियर इट। दर्शकों, यहाँ पर प्रभु जी ने बताया है कि अगर इस्कॉन की एज गौशाला में कोई गौ माता है जो अब दूध नहीं देती या बूढ़ी हो चुकी है, तो उनकी देखभाल में और एक जवान गौ माता की देखभाल में कोई भेदभाव नहीं किया जाता। निश्चित रूप से अगर कोई गौ माता है जो दूध दे रही है, तो इस केस में उन्हें ऐसे कुछ पदार्थ हैं जो मुख्य रूप से खिलाने पड़ते हैं, अन्यथा कोई भेदभाव नहीं है दोनों की सेवा में। प्रभु जी, द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, when managing hundreds of cattle in a single facility, herd health is paramount. What protocols does the ministry recommend for disease prevention, biosecurity, and high quality veterinary care?
And the first step is, of course, cleanliness, hygiene, and that is, of course, every animal has to get a particular amount of space. If you create too much crowd, then it becomes very uncomfortable for the animals, and then it will become very difficult to control disease. So first, we have a particular model of how the Goshala should be laid out, so every animal gets sufficient space. The troughs should have a particular height and they should be round, so no corners are there where the bacteria or worms can set in. The trough has to be made in a way that there's no cracks where the ticks can start breeding in. And then, of course, you need care, and you need regular veterinary care. The animals need to be dewormed. Sometimes if some disease is coming, you have to vaccinate the animals. So this all has to be taken care. But the key factor is hygienic conditions. If you keep clean, then disease will be pretty much at bay.
Right. Prabhuji, the next question is, most commercial dairy relies on a cycle that ultimately leads to the slaughterhouse for unproductive animals. How is ISKCON developing a financially viable, ethical dairy model where the milk pays for the lifelong care of the animal?
That is in that way not possible. Um, Even in places like Orissa, which was for a long time very orthodox, If somebody does something wrong to the cow, the village people will give like a punishment. He has to wear a rope around his neck for 1 week or so. Even there, the practice of giving the animals now, after they become unproductive, they're selling them off. And in the moment you sell your animal off, as you just, it's part of the question, it will end up earlier or later in the slaughterhouse. So if your uh, aim is to produce milk and to be competitive in the market, in wholesale, milk is still, I think, 47 rupees or less than 50 rupees. Milk is still available in wholesale. So if you produce a big amount of milk, then you have to sell your milk at that rate. And in order to make a profit, you can't afford to keep an animal longer than it is productive. You can't afford to bring up bulls because you're not working in the field, because you're having a tractor. You can't afford that anymore. So part of the business model is that the unproductive extra animals will be sold, and that money will again subsidize the milk production and will be used for buying new animals. So
Hmm.
it is a vicious cycle. So once your plan is to sell milk, uh, and I remember very long back, we have this Back to God magazine. There was one article always from Hare Krishna Devi Dasi, and she quoted Shastra there and said three type of people are going to hell. And I found that very interesting. Is the ones who sell poison, the ones who sell hair, and the ones who sell milk. It very much bewildered me. I was in those days on Padayatra, and I was thinking, so after I'm gotten more and more involved with the cows and the bulls and the cow protection, it became very clear. If you want to, if your aim is milk production to sell in the market, then of course
Hmm.
you have to exploit.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for saying this. This is also something that needs discussion. We at Hare Krishna TV are also trying our best. We're trying to have these discussions every Wednesday, and we're trying to talk about it as much as we can. And somewhere or the other, it is the responsibility of us, devotees, of us as a society, to collectively not buy commercial dairy products anymore and be a part of this cycle. Because despite buying them and offering them to the Lord and calling it prasad, not really it is accepted by the Lord, A, and B, because you're directly being a part of that cycle by giving them your money. And somewhere or the other, when cows are artificially impregnated for the sake of milk, and then when a so-called cow does stop giving milk, she's sent for the slaughter, and then the other cow is again impregnated. That means you cannot have milk without impregnating, and with impregnation comes a child. So this is a very gruesome, very grave thing. And the more I talk about it, the more bad I feel. So moving on to the next question, which is again in connection with the same thing. Ahimsa, that is slaughter free milk, is naturally much more expensive than commercial milk due to lifelong care costs. How do we educate the general consumer to look past the price tag and understand the true value of what they are purchasing?
Mhm. So yeah, I don't think you can produce in India, let's say, ahimsa milk for less than 200 rupees a liter. If if you have your own farm and you grow your own grass and you use the bullocks for doing that, you may can bring it down to 150 rupees. But I've not seen anyone. That is a theoretical model. I've not seen anyone who is able to do that. So
Hmm.
ahimsa milk will cost 200 rupees a liter. And then even, I don't know what milk you are drinking. I'm living in a Goshala. That question hasn't arisen for me yet in this lifetime. But if I would have to pay 200 rupees per liter milk, I maybe would rather not drink milk, or I would just like go around the corner and buy the pouch and carry it under my quarter home so nobody sees it. So I don't know. People have to understand. Um, you made that point in your answer about offering to Krishna. If I don't. want to use a milk example. If you have a piece of land, and or let's say you have a veranda, and you put some flower pots there, and you're growing flowers with the purpose of offering them to your deities. That means the flowers are grown for Krishna, huh? And then you pluck it and offer it. Whereas if you go to the flower seller, flower vendor down the road, and you buy those flowers, you're not actually offering flowers to Krishna, you're offering money to Krishna. Because you use that money to acquire those items, you use that money to buy those milk, and then whoever picked those flowers, they just drilled their nose and touched the flower, or they just eaten meat, or they just gotten drunken, they just gone to the bathroom and didn't wash their hand, and then they picked up that flower, and then somebody's in the wholesale market walked over the flowers that got thrown in some dirty truck, and then step by step the flower is contaminated, comes to you, and you're thinking by paying the money now you can offer flower to Krishna. So that's not how it works. In a sense, it is an offering, but it's you said Krishna will not accept. That is maybe a step too rough for me, but it is not the same thing, and you're not going to get the real benefit. The real benefit will not come.
Right. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for shedding light on this very important topic. I think the more we talk about it, the more clearer it gets. And somewhere or the other, we have people commenting on our channel. We see that the message is spreading little by little, but people are starting to realize, at least they are thinking about this topic. I mean, this is worthy enough for a discussion. And maybe in the near future, we can see a better society, somebody who's a society that's more sensitive towards cows, a society that's more empathetic towards cows and their needs and their pain. The next question, Prabhuji, is again very important in this subject matter. Beyond milk, traditional systems highly value the cow's dung and urine. How can Goshalas convert these into high value bioproducts like organic fertilizers, pest repellents, and medicines to create an independent revenue stream?
Yeah, that is one important factor which most people, because the city dwellers do not understand. Um, Many people thinking that we're growing things in the field with a chemical fertilizer. But if you only use chemical fertilizer, uh, it will not work unless you also a certain amount of biomass you insert into the field, and the artificial fertilizer comes on top of that to amplify the growth on top of the biomass. If you're not putting biomass, if you're not putting cow dung or fertilizer into your field, just by throwing the urea, it's not going to work. I remember when I came to Pandharpur long back, and we had some fields, and the corns for the cows, they were growing hardly this big, and they were yellow, almost white in color. And they were thinking this field is useless. I said, nah, you have to put some cow dung there. But cow dung was like 5,000 rupees a big trolley, and the temple was very poor, and everyone was thinking, no, how we can invest that much money. And then finally I did that, and I put it in the field, and the next crop turned out the same way. They all laughed at me. But then after that field, it took like 6 months, and then the next crop, it grown like anything. It was dark green, and it just looked like corn is supposed to look like. So people should understand that without putting biomass into the field, just with throwing artificial fertilizer, nothing will grow. So we do need that. Here in Vrindavan, we of course have also we're making a vermicompost. When, Ganjivam reed, we're making high quality fertilizer people can put on their tulsi and in their garden. We're selling it also. Plus, we have a wide variety of gaumata products, go arc, and so many products you can make. But that is not really for everyone, because And then, okay, you say pesticides. In the farm, we were making our homemade pesticides, because if you want to do organic farming, pest is a big problem, and you need your own pesticides. And cow dung is usually always the base ingredient for doing that.
Right. Prabhuji, the next question is, there is a massive resurgence of interest in traditional processing, like the bilona method, from both a health and economic standpoint. Why is reviving these traditional methods so vital for a sustainable Goshala?
Mhm. Um, it is the same thing. If you produce a high quality product, if you just want to sell milk for less than 50 rupees, then you need a huge production, and you need to exploit the cows. Whereas if you produce high quality ghee, maybe the amount of ghee is somewhat less, but the few people who do value for what you're selling will give you good money for that. And of course, it is traditional and it is healthier.
Hmm. Right. थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी। निश्चित रूप से दर्शकों, मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सभी यहाँ पर हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं। पिछले कुछ वर्षों में पिछले कुछ क्वेश्चंस में मैं ट्रांसलेशन करना भूल गई, लेकिन मुख्य रूप से यहाँ पर अभी हमने यही डिस्कस किया है कि कैसे इस्कॉन एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन गौ माता की सेवा कर रहा है, और कैसे समाज को इस बात को समझने की बहुत आवश्यकता है कि अगर गौ माता हमारे समाज से चली जाएगी तो हमारे खाने पीने की जो वस्तु है उसका पोषण पूरी तरीके से जीरो हो जाएगा। और कहीं ना कहीं प्रभु जी ने ये बताया है कि गौ माता का जो गोबर है और जो गोमूत्र है, इससे बनने वाले प्रोडक्ट्स भी कहीं ना कहीं आज इनकी जो डिमांड है वो बढ़ रही है, और पूर्ण रूप से पूरे सहयोग, पूरे योगदान के साथ इन प्रोडक्ट्स को तैयार किया जा रहा है। और इनकी बढ़ती डिमांड के साथ ऐसा लगता है कि आने वाले समय में पूरे दुनिया में इन चीजों की डिमांड होगी और गौ माता को पुनः से वो सम्मान मिल जाएगा। और अगर ऐसा होता है तो काउ प्रोटेक्शन बहुत सरल हो जाएगा, इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड बिल्कुल नहीं रहेगा। प्रभु जी, द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, chemical farming has severely depleted agricultural soil. How can integrating traditional cattle grazing and organic manure runoff actively restore soil biology and microbiome diversity?
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit touched that earlier already. Is that without actual cow dung and without biomass, the artificial fertilizer itself will not grow anything. But we have, I think, one of the northeastern states in India is fully organic. You have a whole state in India where the whole state is organic. So, yes, we could say that the altogether yield would be a little bit less. I think it reaches about 80% of the production can be reached. But once you actually, I was running an organic farm for quite some years, and we stamped it out of nothing from salty soil. Uh, Once you actually have your soil properly cultured with all the microorganisms and everything, and you have enough biomass inside, and then you grow organic, the organic produce, at least in the realm of sabji and things, is so much bigger and better and so much more tasty and so much more healthy. It is a natural way of doing. And again, I said, this way we are living is unsustainable, because right now the state of Hormuz is blocked, and all the fertilizer India used to get, it used to come from some factory in Qatar, because they use natural gas to produce that fertilizers ammonia cheaply. And now India had to make a new contract from other people from all around the world. They're given a tender. And so in that way, with great difficulties, they have enough fertilizer to run this so-called agriculture they're running right now.
Hmm.
So
Right.
it's a total dependency on oil, even in the fertilizer industry. So no oil, no fertilizer, finish.
Right. Prabhuji, the next question is in this connection, and it is very important. Modern environmental narratives often blame cattle for high methane emissions and climate change. How do we distinguish between the carbon footprint of industrial, grain fed factory farming and the ecological benefits of grass fed, protected herds?
And that is easy to understand. I mean, most people never gone to. If you go in a place where they keep like 1,000 pigs in small place, and as you said, they feed them a high quality, high dense food because they want to grow them up as fast as possible, and they all pass stool and that get washed out, and that is not being used and not being fermented and then left in the environment. Yeah, of course. Actually, it's a huge pollution. There's a whole nother aspect in that, and that is if you produce 1 kilo, just think you have 1 kilo wheat, and you grind that into atta. Then how many people you can feed with that? But if you want to eat 1 kilo meat, for that you have to spend at least 20 kilo wheat and a huge amount of water. To get that 1 kilo wheat, I can't remember. Maybe you need 20 liters, or there's some formulas there. But if you want that 1 kilo meat, that costs you like thousands of liters of water. So yes, if you want to eat meat and if you want to grow the animals as fast as possible in as small as possible space with heavy duty food to grow them as fast as possible, this is terrible. Whereas if you have a normal organic farming, there's that problem is insignificant. Nobody that will not even arise.
Hmm. Right. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for highlighting this gap. And this is something that we need to be discussing more often. दर्शकों, कहीं ना कहीं यहाँ पर हमारी जो बात हो रही है ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, और कहीं ना कहीं हम प्रयास करेंगे कि हम इस विषय पर ओवरऑल आपके लिए लाइव सेशंस लेकर के आएं, जिससे हम और डिटेल में और गहराई में इस चीज को समझ सकते हैं और सोसाइटी में इस इंपॉर्टेंट मैसेज को फैला सकते हैं. Prabhuji, we are coming towards the end of our session, and very soon we will be taking the audience questions if there are any. And the next question I have for you is: the theme of recent ministry conferences has focused on unifying farms and temples into an abundant ecosystem. Can you share an example of a model project where a temple and its surrounding agricultural land are completely self-sustaining?
Ah, there's a very few farms all over India which are more or less self-sustaining. But that is, let's say I had a farm here in Ajay, and we were growing wheat every winter. So we were producing enough wheat to even run our big kitchen for almost 6 months a year. So if we would have had some more time to expand that farm, we would have been easily able at least to produce wheat for the temple. And then we were producing flowers, we were producing gur for the deities. That is all possible. To make it all round, it is not so easy. And that difficulty is not because of we don't have land or we don't have money. The problem is that it is about the manpower.
Hmm.
Um, you are like to speak about that, but if you would have to live in a farm tomorrow, you could not do that. Even if we would pay you for that, you would go there, and even you had all willingness and good intention. After 1 week, 2 weeks, you would just feel this environment is not suiting me because I'm coming from from a city where constantly something is happening, and there you sit, and it is totally quiet, and only the plants are growing, and that they grow very slowly. So you would not feel. Satisfied there. So that
Hmm.
is one of the main. Srila Prabhupada had given a very clear formula that every city temple has to have a farm.
Right.
And the Grihastas will be living in the farm. And what that ultimately entails is that the kids will be growing up in the farm. and that
Hmm.
is going to be the natural life for them, simple living, high thinking. So since we are not having that, the grihastas are living in the city, and then they have to go to a job, and then they have to make a million of compromises, and then they don't see a future where their children will survive without a job. So they will be put in a normal school, and there will be even devotees drill their kids. So it's a whole cycle. That's why Srila Prabhupada wanted that. And then the produce from the farm will be for the deities and for the devotees. And if there's excess, and we can also run a restaurant with that. Srila Prabhupada given the formula, but somewhere at some point we deviated. Now we're trying to bring it back to the point, and that is not so easy.
Hmm. That is not so easy. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for being so honest and so open with us. Uh, as I earlier mentioned, this is a collective goal and we have to work towards it hand in hand. And there's a solution standing at the end. We have to reach there together, and somewhere or the other, if we are successful in doing that, it is going to help all of us as a society. And we will be seeing better children, better families, better emotions in the society. And somewhere or the other, we'll see better animals, happy animals all around. The next question is, for entrepreneurs who want to support the cause but aren't farmers, what potential do you see for dedicated retail outlets that sell exclusively cruelty free Vedic wellness and agricultural products?
Eh, um, since we're not producing so many of those products, so it will be hard to have an outlet for that. Everyone can start with something. As I said earlier, if you have a little veranda on your flat on the 15th floor, put some pots on your veranda, start growing some flowers, start growing some subji, start doing something, and then align yourself with somebody. And yes, and if their products made in ISKCON Goshalas, try to sell them to your friend, convince to your friend, start using them yourself as much as you can, implement them in your style of life. We have to try. And then, of course, you can find a project and you can support that financially. If there's no other way for you to help, you can always find a Goshala. It's going to line Goshala, and somewhere you can see where people are properly taking care of the cows. You can help there financially or whatever way you can.
Hmm.
From that you will develop a taste. It's the same when first time we pick up the mala, the mind is not happy in doing that. So over a period of time, we are getting the mind used to, and then finally the mind will take pleasure in chanting japa. So it's the same with those type of activities too. We have to get used to that.
Hmm. Prabhuji, the next question is, how can a family living in a high rise apartment in a dense metropolitan area actively participate in cow protection if they cannot physically visit a farm every day?
Yes, in the last question, I answered that already. Yes, first of all, you can read about cows. Krishna Lila, cows are also there. You can have always a cow on the altar. You can worship a cow. So at least the concept is there, how important it is to worship the cow. You can grow a tulsi, you can grow a sabji, you can grow a flower. Automatically for that you need soil, you need some fertilizer, you do something, and then eventually you can only give a donation to people who are doing it. Some people set up whole subji gardens on top of the high riser on the roof. I'm just saying there are little bit something, you do something, whatever little bit you can start with, you start with.
Mhm. That's right. Youth today are incredibly conscious about animal rights, but often lean toward strict veganism because of commercial dairy horrors. How can the ministry bridge the gap and show Gen Z that an ethical, loving relationship with dairy animals is possible?
Yeah, if you have access to a temple where there are cows, then you can go there. Even in the West, they have something like a cow cuddling and cow brushing, and embrace the cow and things like that. Yeah, this veganism is ultimately not sustainable again. That is you need to take some vitamins. It just won't work. I remember early days that macrobiotic came out, and ISKCON devotee were teasing is macroidiotic. But you could see people in the beginning that I sometimes have periods where I only eat salad. In the beginning, this is very good. Your health is increasing, but on a long run, you start getting skinnier and skinnier, and then you see the people who did that for many years. They became very skinny. It is not sustainable. You need milk. You have to be a lacto vegetarian. You have to so that you sustain this vegetarian lifestyle for a very long period of time. You can't just live vegan. That won't work, hmm, for a long time. That works for a short time, and then you always have to take supplements. So it is a hard question. What is better to do? As you earlier said, in order to stop this commercial dairy, it's maybe better to be vegan than to support the slaughter-based milk production industry.
Right.
But yes, go to the Goshala, spend time with the cows, serve them, and then you will feel um, an intimacy with them, and that ultimately will melt your heart, and you will get attached to that.
Right. Prabhuji, as you said, many devotees have come on the platform, have openly shared that the secret is spending quality time with the cow in person. No matter how many videos we see, no matter how many discourses or seminars we attend, unless and until we sit down and spend time with the cow, we will not be able to understand the mother factor that is attached with her. We will not be able to experience and feel the warmth that the cow carries within her and the aura that she has, the aura that surrounds her. So the secret is spending time with the cow. That is eventually going to solve all the doubts and eventually going to establish a very deep relationship between the man and the cow. And in the long run, I think this can solve the problem very easily. The second
Yeah.
last question for the session is, what kind of legal protections or government policies is the ministry currently advocating for to support independent non-profit goshalas?
Mm, in some states, we are getting some subsidy from the government, but that is not so easy because our ISKCON trust is not having cow protection in its bylaws. So usually you have to start a separate Goshala trust that has to exist for about 2 years. Rules are different in different states, and you get a subsidy of the government, particularly if you promote Indian breeds. So that is helping. Besides that, to run fully self, we are depending on donations. That is good or bad, but that is a fact. To run a fully self-sufficient Goshalas, that is not happening in this time and days. If you keep the bulls and keep the old animals, it will just not work out unless you have a huge amount of land where they can graze or something like that. That would be very difficult.
That's right. The last question is, if a viewer takes away just one core realization from today's show about their relationship with Gaumata, what would you want that to be?
Krishna is a coward boy, and if you want to develop any affection for Krishna, earlier or later, this is your Nitya Seva to deal with the cows. So you have to deal with the cows this way or that way. Even on a material platform, all the demigods are living in the body of the cow. It is an emblem of piousness. So in any way, if you want to make your life successfully, materially or spiritual, you have to start interacting with the cows. Small
Right.
service, whatever you can do. And as you said, touch the cows, feed some ladus, brush the cow. Sometimes, whatever little time you have, do it.
Prabhuji, with this, we would like to end the show. I would like to thank you on behalf of all our viewers, all our Sevaks here at Hare Krishna TV, for again taking out your time to educate us, spread this awareness, and spread this divine message of the Lord, trying to advocate for cow protection and teaching us so many things about cows. And as you mentioned, so many things for city dwellers. I'm sure the audiences have grasped it and they have understood that it's not so difficult, yet it's not so easy. I'm so grateful to you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Darshako, before I start to conclude the session, we have a small video for you. And after the video, we can conclude the session.
Before a single drop, there is a heartbeat. At Haribol, that heartbeat is never traded for milk. Every cow and bull lives protected lifelong. This is ahimsa. This is kindness. This is devotion. Switch to Haribol Ahimsa A2 milk.
I sincerely hope that the message we were trying to convey has been conveyed successfully. Please feel free to share your open views and open thoughts with us in the comment section. You can specifically mention the one thing that has touched your heart from this session. You can specifically mention the one thing that you may not agree with from this session. I request you to share this session with as many people as you can. Also, if you have somebody in your mind who's been an active Gau Sevak and who has been protecting cows and serving cows on ground for a very long time, then please feel free to share the Gau Sevak's details with us. We'll try and get in touch with him, and we will try and having him on our show as a guest. Thank you so much for being with us. Hare Krishna.